How good is Rafa Nadal on clay? Let's look at some of the staggering records that solidify his reign as the undisputed king of clay. Since his debut at Roland,
Rafa Nadal is back on clay, and it's only for coaching Iga Swiatek, but I'll take anything. So I saw these pictures.
What if I told you that a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines just walked into the heart of Europe, stepped onto clay, the most brutal, unforgiving surface in tennis, and made the entire tennis world stop and stare? And what if I told you she's being coached by the man who built the greatest clay court dynasty this sport has ever seen? Stay with me, because this story is only just getting started. Welcome back, the only place on YouTube where tennis isn't just a sport. It's a full-blown soap opera with world-class athleticism and storylines so dramatic they'd make Hollywood writers jealous. We're talking tears. We're talking redemption arcs. We're talking a young Filipina walking into a foreign country and dismantling the local hero in front of her own home crowd. And somewhere in the background, one of the greatest legends this sport has ever produced is quietly pulling the strings. Today, we are diving deep into the story of Alexandra Eala, Toni Nadal, and a clay season that is about to change everything you think you know about this girl. Let's start with something that should make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Rafa Nadal, 14-time French Open champion, the king of clay, possibly the greatest tennis player who has ever lived, is back on clay courts. Now yes, it's in a coaching capacity, but here's the thing. The man who engineered Rafa's entire clay court dominance, the architect behind every single one of those 14 Roland Garros titles, Toni Nadal, Rafa's uncle, is now working directly in Alexandra Eala's corner. Think about what that means for a second. The Nadal blueprint, the exact same philosophy, the same mental framework, the same technical obsession that turned Rafa into an unstoppable force on clay, is now being poured directly into the development of a 20-year-old from the Philippines. Does that not send a chill down your spine? Because here's what people misunderstand about Toni Nadal. He is not a celebrity advisor. He is not a famous surname attached to a press release. This is the man who shaped one of the most dominant athletic careers in the history of human sport. His role in Eala's corner isn't cosmetic. It is foundational. Alex herself has described him as both a technical and structural presence within the entire team dynamic, calling the setup a well-oiled machine. And when she was asked about having him in her corner, she didn't hesitate for a single second. "We're so blessed to have him," she said. And you know what? She is absolutely right. When the man who built the Nadal clay dynasty starts working with you, you don't just get better. You get transformed. So armed with the Mallorca clay sessions, the Toni Nadal wisdom, the brutal training court battles alongside Iga Swiatek, and a burning hunger to prove that her Miami slip was a blip and not a trend, Alexandra Eala flew to Austria to make her debut at the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. Now if you don't know what the Linz Open is, let me paint the picture for you. This is a WTA 500 event. That means serious ranking points, serious prize money, and a field absolutely stacked with dangerous talent. We're talking past French Open winners Barbara Krejcikova and Jelena Ostapenko. We're talking Emma Raducanu. We're talking defending champion Ekaterina Alexandrova. This was not a soft entry point for a clay season debut. This was walking straight into the fire. But here's the detail that makes every single point Alexandra Eala plays in Linz carry extra weight, and I want you to really let this sink in. She was the first player from the Philippines ever to compete in the Linz Open main draw. In the entire history of the tournament. Every time this young woman steps onto a court, she is not just playing a tennis match. She is writing history. And that is both an incredible privilege and a never-ending pressure that most athletes her age would crumble under. But not Eala. Never Eala. Her first-round opponent was Julia Grabher, the Austrian home favorite, ranked 89 in the world, playing in front of her own passionate crowd who had shown up that morning with one singular mission: cheer their girl to victory. Now on paper, Eala at world number 46 was the clear favorite. But here's what ranking numbers don't tell you. Grabher had climbed from number 470 all the way to number 89 in just 15 months. 15 months. That kind of trajectory doesn't happen by accident. That is a player who is improving at a frightening pace. and she entered Linz with a reputation as someone far more dangerous on clay than her ranking would even suggest. So let me ask you this. When you combine a red-hot home favorite, a passionate partisan crowd, and one of the most unforgiving surfaces in sport, do you think ranking numbers still matter? Because I'll tell you right now, this was never going to be a formality. This was going to be a war. And a war is exactly what it was. What followed was a display of nerve, grit, and steely resolve that told you everything you need to know about where Alex Eala is right now as a player. Across the entire match, Eala lost her serve just once. Just once. She faced 10 break points and saved 9 of them. 9 out of 10. Think about what that statistic actually means. Every single time Grab Her manufactured a chance. Every single time the crowd noise reached a fever pitch and the pressure was at its absolute maximum, Eala reached down into something deep and found a way. The clay was asking her the question it always asks, how deep do you want to go? And every single time, she answered. The first set was tightly contested through the opening 9 games with both players solid on serve and neither able to separate. Then Eala timed her break to absolute perfection, striking in the 10th game to claim the first set 6-4. The second set followed a similar story, a push and pull, a grinding battle of nerves, before Eala closed it out at 6-3. Final scoreline, 6-4, 6-3 in just 102 minutes. Clinical, composed, and absolutely loud in its message to the rest of the draw. After the match, Eala addressed the crowd on court and what she said was pure, unfiltered gold. I'm happy with the win, she told them. I didn't think there were so many of you Filipinos here in Linz. Thank you for the support and let's see each other in the next match. And then she broke into Tagalog, connecting directly, personally, intimately with the Filipino fans who had made the trip all the way to Austria just to watch her play. And let me tell you, this detail never gets old. Wherever Alex Eala goes on this planet, there is a sea of Filipino flags waiting for her. In Linz, Austria, of all places on earth, the Filipinos showed up. They always show up. And it matters more than any ranking or any statistic ever could. I'm really happy with how they've welcomed me and welcomed the Filipinos. She said with genuine warmth. I hope to discover your culture more and have some fun on the court. That combination of humility, gratitude, and competitive fire is what makes Alex Eala genuinely special, not just as an athlete, but as a human being. Round 2. And this is where the story shifts into a completely different gear, because next up was Jelena Ostapenko. Let me be very clear about something before we go any further. Jelena Ostapenko is not your garden variety opponent. She is a wrecking ball with a tennis racket. She won the French Open in 2017, coming from nowhere, shocking the world, terrifying the establishment, and she has been terrorizing players on clay ever since. Just last year she won the Stuttgart Open in absolutely barnstorming fashion, defeating Iga Swiatek, Ekaterina Alexandrova, and Arina Sabalenka along the way. 3 enormous scalps. And now she was standing across the net from a 20-year-old Filipina on a clay court in Austria. Now Eala did hold the head-to-head going in, having beaten Ostapenko twice in their previous meetings. But, and this is a crucial but, both of those victories came on hard court and grass. Clay is Ostapenko's territory. It is where her game breathes. It is where her forehand becomes something truly terrifying. So here is the question I want you to sit with. Can everything Eala has learned under Toni Nadal's guidance translate quickly enough to handle the most explosive clay court striker she has ever faced? What followed was one of the most emotionally exhausting, momentum-swinging, heart-wrenching matches of the entire clay season so far. Eala started brilliantly. She broke early, built a 4-2 lead in the first set, and looked for all the world like she was about to pull off something extraordinary. But Ostapenko, true to her nature, true to the warrior spirit that has defined her entire career, came roaring back. She reeled off 4 consecutive games to steal the first set 6-4. Just like that, everything had shifted. And this is where Alex Eala did something simultaneously breathtaking and heartbreaking. She went out there in the second set and simply took over. Break after break. Game after game. She raced out to a commanding 5-1 lead and even had a set point in the 8th game, 1 point that would have sent the entire match to a deciding third set against Jelena Ostapenko on clay. She was 1 single point away. 1 point. And in that moment, every Filipino watching at home and in the stands held their collective breath. Can you imagine the feeling? 5 games to 1 up in the second set against a former Grand Slam champion, set point on your racket, you are right there. You are so close you can touch it. But Ostapenko, who has survived far darker places than a 5-1 deficit and come out swinging, found something buried deep in the reserves of a true champion. From that moment, she reeled off 6 consecutive games. 6. To close out the match 6-4, 7-5 in 1 hour and 43 minutes, leaving Eala to deal with one of the most gut-wrenching near misses of her young career. The numbers told a brutal story. Ostapenko hit 41 winners to Eala's 9. When Ostapenko is that clean, that precise, that lethal off both wings, even the very best players in the world struggle to live with her. That is the cold, hard truth of clay court tennis. But here is what I need you to really hear, and I mean really hear this, because this matters more than the scoreline. A defeat is not always a loss. That match against Ostapenko, stretching her to 7-5 in the second set, racing to a 5-1 lead, competing point for point with a former Grand Slam champion on her absolute best surface, that is not a story of failure. That is the story of a 20-year-old player who belongs at this level, who is absorbing the most painful and necessary lessons the clay court can possibly teach, who is going to come back stronger for every single one of them. Clay is unforgiving. It exposes every weakness with ruthless, surgical efficiency. And the fact that Eala kept Ostapenko honest for nearly 2 hours on a surface that has historically been her biggest challenge, that is growth. That is the arc bending in exactly the right direction. And here is the bigger picture that should genuinely excite you. Being shaped under the philosophy of Rafael Nadal, widely regarded as the greatest clay court player who has ever lived, gives Alex Eala both the technical base and the mental framework to eventually translate her game onto this surface. The Linz campaign proved that the growth is real. Not theoretical. Not potential. But happening right now, point by point, match by match, tournament by tournament. The road ahead this spring is both daunting and absolutely electric. She takes everything she learned in Linz, the composure against Grabher, the raw courage against Ostapenko, the lessons carved into her game by that 5-1 lead that got away, and carries it straight into Stuttgart, then Madrid, then potentially Rome, and ultimately to Roland Garros itself. The French Open. The Cathedral of Clay. The place where Rafael Nadal built his legend 14 trophies deep. The place where a young woman from the Philippines, shaped by the very hands that built that legend, is coming to write her own story. The clay season is just getting started. Alex Eala fired the opening shot. She came to Linz as a tournament newcomer ranked 46 in the world, carrying the weight of an entire nation's dreams on her shoulders, and she walked out of Austria with her head high, her game sharper, and her path forward more clearly defined than ever. The lessons are being absorbed. The movement is improving. The belief is deepening. And somewhere in Mallorca, on those famous red clay courts where this whole incredible journey began, the academy that built her is watching every single point. Proud. This is Alex Eala's clay season. Stuttgart is next. Then Madrid. Then Paris. And something deep in my gut tells me that by the time we reach Roland Garros, we are all going to look back at this Linz tournament as the exact moment the clay chapter truly began. Now I need to hear from you right now. Do you believe Alex Eala can make a deep run at Roland Garros this year? Is Toni Nadal's influence the key that finally unlocks the clay for her? And which tournament this spring do you think she makes her biggest statement? Stuttgart or Madrid? Drop your hottest takes in the comments right now because that is where the best conversations on this channel always happen. If this story gave you chills, if it made you proud, if it fired you up, smash that like button, share this with every tennis fan you know, and if you haven't subscribed to Champions Tennis yet, what are you even waiting for? Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and join the family. Because we will be right here, every step of the way. Let's go.